Exchange on the agriculture. Joining me on set is Kenyan agricultural consultant, farmer, all things food and agriculture.
Thank you for the invitation. Nice to be here at Look Up TV.
Yeah. So the story that I've just aired is about pesticides and how they in turn affect the food that is in the shambas, in our farms, and then that food ends up on our plates. So you can just take us through how dangerous the pesticides, toxic pesticides are.
A pesticide by its nature is meant to control a disease or an insect that will affect your agricultural yield. They would not be effective if they were not toxic. That's their job. Right. Much the same as you would say an antibiotic is toxic to a bacteria or a virus that makes you sick. So really it's not about their toxicity, it's how they are used. For any toxin or for any product, even salt, if you take too much salt, you get hypertension. Mm-hmm. Too much sugar, you get diabetes. You take antibiotics in the wrong way, it'll affect your health. And you build a resistance to it, you get allergic reactions, it doesn't cure the disease. Much the same way with pesticides. If you use them well, as recommended in the labels, if it's a crop protection or a pesticide that has been approved by the government and gone through a regulatory review and assessment, right. If it's well used by the farmers, then actually it helps our agricultural productivity. The example you gave just now as we were talking about locusts, where would we be today if we did not have the government's intervention in controlling the locust scourge? Mm-hmm. Or take the fall armyworm, which decimates our maize production. If we did not have some crop protection chemicals and pesticides, our maize production would also be much lower than it is. So it's about balance. It's about how do we safely use this product. Never throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Okay, and Kenyan farmers have complained for a while that the pesticides that are imported in the country are harming their crops.
Some farmers, as you say, have made a submission. I know of other farmers who've also made submissions to farmers, to the parliament, right. Signing that they need this technology in order to produce. So, I think it's a debate and a dialogue that's going on in the country. And I think it's a healthy one. And I think even what the government has said or the parliament has said that let's have a regulatory review on the pesticides in the country is a good thing. I think you should always look and see what we have. Is it suitable? Can we tighten the regulations around it? Do we need everything that we have, or can some things be dropped? That's a healthy debate and a healthy discussion to have. But to demonize a technology that is so important for agricultural productivity would be taking away a vital tool in a farmer's hands. There is no tomato farmer today who cannot use crop protection and expect to have a yield that they can sell and make a living from.
So it will be hard to have anything without these chemicals.
Organic farming in Africa with our temperatures and heavy rainfall, you'll have yields that are so much lower. The food that you're already paying for, which is expensive and rising every day, will be many times more expensive if you don't have crop protection. These insects will destroy our yields, may cause disease in our plants. We need them. In fact, it's not me saying this. If you look at what Tegemeo said in a recent study just released about a week ago, they said there will be a very significant reduction in food productivity within the country, a very significant increase in prices of food, a very significant reduction in the income of farmers, without real significant improvement of food safety if you remove the crop protection or the pesticides that are being asked to be removed. We would actually have more expensive and less food. You cannot grow potatoes today in Kenya without having mancozeb, which is one of the products that are being asked to be removed because of blight. Blight will knock out 80% of the potatoes in this country.
So then do farmers need to be more educated?
Absolutely. I can't agree with you more. Education of the farmer is extremely vital, not just in how to handle diseases and pests and how to use crop protection safely. That's a very important part of it, but that's not all. They need to be educated on where are the best markets, because the biggest problem farmers have is where do I sell my produce when I have it? How do I add value by doing value addition or preservation or better storage to my products? And how do I improve my soil health? What are those things I can do to make sure that my soil stays healthy and does not degenerate over the year? Which fertilizers should I use and how much of them should I use? Temperatures are rising with climate change. am I growing the right variety of crop? Or should I change? Maybe I used to grow maize, but now I should be talking about sorghum.
Right.
You know, things like agroforestry. Should I grow more trees in order to shade my crops and protect my soil? So education of farmers is an ongoing thing. Sadly, we don't have enough of it. I think the government extension services in the counties really does need support in order for them to be able to reach out to farmers a lot more. I know companies are trying to do that. I know NGOs and community organizations are trying to do that, but we just need much, much more. Take, for instance, even the weather. I know it just started raining in some parts of Kenya today. Some farmers planted a month ago, and some of their crops have probably already died.
Dried out.
In the soil. So information on what is the weather like, is very important. So I can't agree with you more.
And speaking of what is the weather like, before the weather was more predictable.
Absolutely.
That we had short rains, then the long rain season, and it was easier even for farmers. But right now with the climate changes, then it is different for farmers to know exactly how their crops are going to yield.
Yes.
And in a country that irrigation is not, it's not a top priority, then what is the fate of farming in this country?
I think, as you heard in the COP talks in Glasgow last week, we really need to do everything we can to keep global temperatures below 1.5. Now, we in Africa contribute only 2% to greenhouse gas emissions. So we are a victim of what is going to happen. They say it's quite likely that it may not even be 1.5 if we take the measures that we need to take. We are actually targeted to reach 2.4 degrees increase in temperature. What that will mean is that things will become more erratic, more extreme weather events, more droughts, more floods, more fires. So farmers are going to already have an uncertain environment to deal with and uncertain markets to deal with. We need to do everything we can to shore up and give more predictability to the farmers. Right. So we've talked about information. We've talked about linking them to markets. We've talked about new technologies that are coming in, drought-tolerant varieties, insect-resistant crops. We talked about even when it comes to crop protection. How do we use the right crop protection in the right way, the right amount, at the right time? So you do things like, it's called integrated pest management. Don't just come and spray. No, only spray when you need to. But you also need to look at financial mechanisms. Look at insurance. You don't drive a car in Nairobi today without insurance. Mm-hmm. Or everybody who is a homeowner has insurance. More and more people have health insurance. I think farmers desperately need insurance.
Mm-hmm. They rarely take precaution.
It's insurance that's against the weather. It says, if it doesn't rain, I have paid a certain organization a small premium. I've paid them so that if it doesn't rain, at least I am able to recoup my losses on the fertilizer I used, on the seed I used. Maybe some insurance programs also on predicted yields, it's able to pay me. I know there are organizations in Kenya today and around Africa that are looking at things like insurance. Farmers have a challenge in trying to get accessing credit. How can we structure it in a country so that the banks in this country will give farmers loans that recognize the seasonality of the crop, so that you don't start paying month 1 but that you pay month 6, And how can the government support that and discount those loans? So farmers need a lot of help. Access to credit, access to information, linkages to markets, infrastructure like good roads and bridges so that you can get your produce to market on time.
Good time.
More and more cool chains. How do I keep my tomatoes from getting rotten? What can I do in order to keep them as fresh as possible? So I think these are solutions that no one organization has. Government doesn't have them all, nor does the private sector. But I think if you have a public-private partnership approach where the farmer is put at the center, and the farmer is at the center with a voice to speak and say what their real needs are, working with the county government, the national government, with the private sector, with the private associations, with the exporters, we can forge a path forward that is able to mitigate some of these risks. Because I don't believe the Kenyan farmer should survive. They should thrive. They should make money. It should be an attractive thing that brings young people like you to say, I'm also going to farm.
I'm also going to farm.
Good.
And so with the gas emissions and of course the very adverse climatic changes, is this a process that can be reversed?
I think it can be slowed down, and if we're lucky, can be halted. at the 1.5 degree rise. But I think we are definitely already on a path to much more uncertainty. We can see it all around us. So I would say some are looking at technologies to cause drawdown of greenhouse gases, talking about things that can be done in order to remove the greenhouse gases from the sky. But practically here in Kenya, in Africa, what can we do? I think the agreement that was signed about deforestation, making sure we protect our forests. Things like what can you do in your own local area? Grow trees on your farm, grow them around your farm, grow alleys of trees within your crops. Because I just learned something recently. I've been in agriculture for 30 years, but I only read a report very recently that said even more damaging than the lack of enough moisture for crops to grow is the higher temperatures that are not allowing crops to photosynthesize. I didn't realize that higher temperatures, might make your bananas or your maize or your beans not survive. So what can you do? You can do more shade. Coffee farmers can grow rows of trees within their coffee. It used to happen before. Ethiopia grows all its coffee under trees. And we should think about things like those. So interventions that matter. Things like, how do I protect my soil? When it rains, if you look at all our rivers, even as I was driving here, I looked at the roadside drainage. Brown. It should not be brown. That means that the soil is being washed off. Grow grass, put the right kind of landscaping to make sure that you protect your soil. Don't grow on hills without terraces, that sort of thing. So there are a lot of measures that can be taken to mitigate. To say that we will stop it, not in our lifetimes. I think we are going to have more uncertain weather. But we are smart.
Slow it down.
Human beings are smart. We are adaptable. We can succeed, but we cannot do it same old. We have to change. We have to be awake. We have to learn. We have to really think of what we can do to survive as a farmer.
Okay, and given the culture of cutting down trees, not planting enough trees, generally just not taking care of the environment as much as we should. So as Kenyans, I know the conversation about climate change has been the talk of town, even from the Devolution conference that just ended yesterday. But now, how do we make the conversation of environmental conservation more appealing to Kenyans and Kenyan farmers?
I think, you're in the communication business.
Right.
In fact, that's a question I should ask you. So what do they call it? They call it change communication. Very important. Where you make it relevant for somebody to see that this actually will impact their lives. A farmer has so many challenges. They're thinking, how do I make enough money to pay school fees? How do I grow enough food to feed my family? Environmental conservation protection can sound like something far off, too distant to worry about today. What we need to do is to find ways to make them to make fellow farmers, because I'm a farmer, realize that it actually impacts my yields next season. If I look after my soil and make sure it's not run away, it does not run off when it rains, my yields are protected for the next season. If I do my soil testing and I fertilize in the right way, if I shade my crops, if I manage my pests well, it affects my yield. So we need to have demonstration plots where you see new ways of farming, agroecological ways of farming, regenerative ways of farming, using modern technology. We need to have those new varieties being demonstrated to farmers. We need to have radio programs, TV programs like this. We need to have barazas and politicians instead of just talking about politics, talking about things that really matter. Absolutely. The people listen to them. The public administration, the politicians should embrace this topic and not just talk about votes, but talk about changing lives on farmers' fields, because Kenya and Africa is really agricultural. Our biggest opportunities and where our biggest population is on the ground. If we can able to turn or increase the income of a farmer by 50%, we turn the economy faster than having all the IT people you can think of, faster than the entertainment and communication industry, faster than manufacturing industry. You want to turn Africa around, turn farmers around. China did it. It started with the farmers in China.
Okay, and adaptation. Now with the changing climatic times, then farmers need to adapt. So are there certain crops that farmers should be planting at this time with the changing, unpredictable weather?
So it's very specific. You know, as I talk about parts of eastern Kenya, I come from Meru, and I have a farm in a place that is near the Meru Game Park, which is low-lying. It rained for the first time today. Other places, like in west of the Rift Valley, has been raining very well for months. So the solution that works on my farm does not work for a farmer in Kisii or Nyanza, where the rain has been very nice. Right. So I think that's where you need a local adaptation, and that's where organizations like CALRO, the Kenya Agricultural Research Organization, will be able to best advise farmers what is the best crop to grow now, with this kind of weather. And the farmer also has to educate themselves, see who are the successful farmers in my neighborhood and what are they doing. So learning is from everywhere, and so what I like to call them knowledge networks. Develop your knowledge network, your WhatsApp groups, right. Your Facebook networks, your barazas, your farmers' days, your field days, your local extension officer, your local company that's coming around to advise you, your local NGO, your local faith-based organization. What are people doing? Keep your ears to the ground and keep experimenting. Farmers are also experimenters. Mm-hmm. We try and we see this works, this doesn't.
You plant these two together?
Yes, you plant the two, you see this variety is doing well, you drop the one that's not and carry on.
Okay, and even as we wind up, then what is the one thing that farmers can take home from today's conversation on ways to survive this climate change?
What I would say is this. Believe that you will thrive, not just survive. Believe that you will make it. But that belief must be accompanied by a commitment to educate yourself, to really keep your ear to the ground. One of the things they say is in the tragedies of African agriculture today is that the average farmer is 65 years old in certain crops. Maybe not so ready and not so open to learning new things. That older farmer, you must learn new things. Younger farmers, please get on board and use technology. People are growing in deserts and surviving, People are growing within forests and surviving. So be aware, be alert, and be linked into a knowledge network. Mm-hmm. But first of all, you've got to have the ambition and the belief that you will survive. Second, make sure you have the knowledge. Third, access to the tools that you need. You need the right seed, you need the right crop protection, you need the right fertilizer, you need the right knowledge. But most importantly, you also need the right market. Farmers don't grow just for fun. They grow because that's the business that they do.
Because they have a ready market.
They should have a ready market. And our population is going to increase. Our cities and towns are getting bigger. Our population is growing. So the opportunity to grow food and the need for food is there. But those markets need better structuring. So have a political voice, farmer. Demand things from your politician. Better markets, better prices, insurance, roads. Have a voice. See what the Indian farmer did? The Indian farmer made the Indian government turn back on laws it had made. The Indian farmer spent 1 year demonstrating on the roads of India, and 3, 4, 5 days ago, the Indian government turned around. The Kenyan farmer needs to find his power.
Okay. And my favorite question to ask any farmer is the future of Kenya farming?
I think one of the things we have is a very good regulatory environment that supports exports. If you look at the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, we are known in parts of the world for growing cut flowers. We're the largest exporter of tea. We grow great, fresh vegetables. We send abroad. We have great environments for growing fruits and vegetables within the country. However, on certain crops we're not that great. I mean, things like wheat, we still import 90% of our wheat and 85% of our rice. Right. So we need to focus on what is our comparative advantage. What are we good at? What can we become world-beating in? If you talk to if you think of New Zealand today, I think of rugby and I think of the kiwi fruit. It's one fruit called the kiwi. What should Kenya be known for? We are known for our tea. We used to be known for our coffee, maybe not so much. We can be known for a few more things, but we have to really work together to be excellent at some things because we are in a world stage and we are in a world competition.
Thank you for your great insight, Kinyo Mbijewe, agricultural consultant. And I'll just be sampling your feedback at this point, looking